If you want to upgrade your Synology NAS, you don't have to configure it from scratch. I'll show you how to migrate from your older NAS to a new Synology NAS. And in this example, we'll be using Migration Assistant, and that's because minimal downtime is our goal. My name is Bogdan Shperny, founder of Apex One IT. Now, before we start, I did tell you we're using Migration Assistant, which is this one right here. This is just a pros and cons chart that Synology has put together themselves. But there's three methods. There's Migration Assistant, Hyper Backup, and Hard Drive Migration. So you can take a quick overview here, and I'll tell you that we are using Migration Assistant. And in fact, actually, in Synology's help article, they have a pretty good flowchart right here to help you determine which one you want to go with. So, right, if we just go straight from the top, is your NAS broken? No, in our example. And do you plan to buy new drives? Yes. Otherwise, we can do hard drive migration. So we are putting in new hard drives. So we're going from I guess we'll see here, it's like a DS223 to a DS923 Plus. So 2 hard drives and also 2 hard drives in the new one. So it's asking, is your new volume size twice as large as the size of your data? And the answer is no. So we're going 1-for-1, meaning that our storage pool volume is going to be the same. Because of that, we can actually use Migration Assistant straight from the top. We can see that. And in either way, you'll see sometimes it leads you to Migration Assistant anyways. And we also want, as it says here, short system downtime, which means that our current NAS can keep working as the migration is happening, and then it'll switch over to the new NAS. This part right here says, is your new volume size twice as large? No, right? This means that for Migration Assistant, if you have the same, let's say you have 2 8 terabytes hard drives, and you're going to another new NAS that has 2 8 terabytes, Migration Assistant should work. Migration Assistant will not work if your new NAS has less storage. Now, less storage also means 1 gigabyte difference, for example. So even if you're off by like a gigabyte or 2, then let's say you can't do that anymore. You have to install another hard drive, use larger hard drives. So you'll notice that sometimes, and I'll give you an example, we'll do a storage volume comparison. You might think you installed the same hard drives, 2 8 terabytes in the new one, same as the old one, but you still can't use Migration Assistant. And that's because the way it creates the volume might have been a little bit smaller. So that's just an important thing before we keep going, and I'll show you how to check this. But something to keep in mind. You probably want to watch this before you actually purchase your hard drives. Okay, step 1 is to like and subscribe. Step 1B is go to finds.synology.com. And we want to locate and make sure that both your old one and your new NAS are online. Now, Synology uses these terms called Destination NAS and Source NAS. So your Source NAS is your current NAS that you're using, and Destination is the new one that you're going to be migrating to. So it should take a couple seconds. Now, if you have VLAN set up, obviously, you know what to do. You just need to check your IP addresses. So we have our new, so the server name Synology NAS, that's the new one that has nothing installed. As you can see, status says not installed. So this is the one we're going to select, and we're going to just do a quick setup. So not a full setup. If you do want that, I'll have that linked for you up somewhere on the screen or in the video description. And your other source NAS, your current NAS, right, should also be listed here. Probably want to go ahead and log into it with an admin account. But for now, let's choose our new NAS, our Destination NAS, and click Connect. Read it, check mark it, click Next. And just click Install. We want to download the latest DSM, which is kind of your operating system for the NAS. And it's just telling you whatever you have installed. So we've already started. We have our new Destination Synology NAS on the network, and it has 2 hard drives already in there. Okay, so I put that in there before powering on the unit. And in order to delete whatever's there, even if they're new, you just want to type in the product number, model number, and it tells you which one it is. Just wants you to verify, click delete, and it's going to install DSM. And this should take just a couple seconds. Then you'll have this screen going on. So again, it's setting up the system. It's telling me 10 minutes, but honestly, it usually takes like no more than 2 minutes. And you'll get to this screen, just click Start. So device name, you want to name something like, in this example, I'll just do Destination NAS. The admin account here is just for the local NAS, and I would suggest that you use the same thing that you're logging into your source NAS, your current NAS. Now, you don't have to because the admin account will be replaced eventually, but it's just easier to keep track of things. So just use the same account, same password to create the account for this one. Then click Next, and automatic here is fine for now, doesn't matter. We do not want to sign in with our Synology account, which is separate from the local NAS account, so skip that. Skip anyway. We don't need any of this for now. Submit. Okay, so now we're in the system. We don't need any of this for now either. No thanks. Dismiss. I mean, eventually you'll want the warranty set up. None of this either. And we don't need that either for now. Okay, no Tor, nothing. Okay, all we want to do is we do want to create a storage pool and volume. So go ahead and click create now. And before we proceed, actually, you want to jump back to your source NAS currently are using with all your data. Now I'm on the source NAS, and what we want to do is go to Storage Manager and check what our current storage volume is. If you go to volume 7.3 terabytes, but we want to see exactly. So if you click on volume 1, settings, you should see exactly how much is allocated to that volume. So we have 7,447 gigabytes. Okay, now on our destination NAS, let's go back. Let's continue with creating the volume. Now this should be basically the same setup that you have. And if you're not sure, I would just recommend going with SHR. If you need help with that on the source NAS, just go back to that storage manager in volume 1. And here it says RAID 1, but it could also be SHR when it says that, well, this is actually just the name. I'm not sure what's named that. So someone named that RAID 1, but really if you click here in this 3-dot menu and click change RAID type, right here, it'll tell you which RAID type it is. So it is SHR. So let's go back to our destination NAS. Want the same RAID type, SHR. Click next. Right, so we have our 2 hard drives. Like I said, we're using 8 terabyte. Don't be confused by the fact that it says 7.3. That's just the reality of how much storage you have. It's a different way of counting it. Let's click next. It's just saying that these are not from Synology. They're Seagate hard drives. That's fine. Click continue. We'll skip the drive check for now. We'll want to make this later. Here I can tell already we have a problem. So this is what I was telling you in the beginning of the video. Our migration assistant requires that the destination NAS storage volume is either the same, exactly the same, or higher. But you can see already that our available capacity, we only have 7,441 gigabytes. But our source NAS here, we were here in settings, we're at 7,447. So this happens sometimes when you're trying to migrate from a much older NAS, or sometimes it's an issue when it was set up in the DSM 6 something, not version 7. So this can be an issue. That's why I would say first check and make sure that you can migrate. So in our scenario right now, we actually, I can say I want to allocate maximum, the full volume that I can handle from the amount of hard drives to set that up, but our migration will fail. It's not going to work because this really needs to be at least 747. See, it doesn't even let me type that in. Even though these are basically the same hard drives, if I go here, they're also Seagate 8 terabyte. They might be slightly different. And so who knows why it's not exactly calculating the same exact storage volume. But for this reason, we basically can't do this. So what we'll have to do here, if you're going to be in the same scenario, if you're not, I'll jump back in here. You can skip ahead, but you'll basically click maximum and make that maximum volume size and click next. But we'll jump back to this. Let me first show you. If you're in this same scenario and you thought you could use the same amount of hard drives, but it's still not working, you basically need to buy either larger hard drives or add an additional hard drive. So that's what we'll do. So first thing, let's shut this down. Let's click on your account, click shut down, and we'll essentially install another hard drive. All right, so all I did, I installed a new hard drive, put it in there, locked it, and hit the power button. So it's going to power back on, and we can probably hit a refresh here eventually. All right, so the destination NAS powered back on. I just logged in with that admin account that we made in the beginning. Click on Storage Manager. It's going to prompt us to create our first storage pool. So same like before, we're doing SHR. And as you see, we have 3 drives. Sweet. So it shows us our estimated capacity, 14.5 terabytes. Again, we went through this already. Now I will also set maximum. So all the hard drives are being used. I would almost rarely recommend doing separate storage pools. But anyways, put that maximum in, that's fine. Click next, BTRFS next. We will not encrypt this and we're good to go, right? So this capacity obviously is larger now than that 7.3 gigabyte that we had. Let's click apply, and it's going to take a minute to set that up. Right here, it's creating that. We can minimize this for now, and let's go to control panel, update and restore, and we just want to verify our DSM version. So For the destination NAS, the operating system DSM needs to be the same or greater than our source NAS. Okay, so this one is 7.2.2. Now let's go to our source NAS, same thing. Control panel, update and restore. Okay, and this one's on 7.2.1. Perfect. We can close this. Let's go back to our storage manager. It's basically now create the storage pool, is just optimizing in the background. That's fine. We can move on to the next step. Step 2 is to download the Migration Assistant. So we go to the package center, read, accept, okay. And you can just search for it here too, Migration Assistant, just click install. And it's here just letting you know that you for sure you want to install on the destination NAS, not on the source NAS. And we are on the destination NAS, and it'll run after it installs. Cool. Okay, after a couple seconds, it'll say installed, and it'll change to open. You can just open that. And if it doesn't though, just go back to your menu here and click Migration Assistant. It's letting you know that most things are going to transfer. Some things for like surveillance station licenses cannot be migrated, and some other limitations. So in fact, I'll have this article that has linked here saved for you in the description, so you can check that out. If there might be, you have some unique circumstance where that won't work for you. Otherwise, just click next. And it's asking for a source NAS. So like it says, either your server name or just the IP address. So I'll go ahead and punch in the IP address. Now, this admin account that you're going to put in is the admin account on your source NAS. So if you made it different for whatever reason, just go ahead and enter that one in. And now it's prompting me for two-factor, which you should have on your admin accounts. Click submit. Okay, so now it's doing a initial system check. This is when, for example, if your destination NAS storage volume is smaller, even by a gig, it'll give you a huge error here. Otherwise, it'll tell you it'll give you a description right here, right? It says that you can basically proceed, everything will be migrated, but just essentially it's telling us that some things will be updated, snapshot replications will be deleted. That's fine, we'll just have to reset up some of those things. So making all of this, maybe take a screenshot, save it, and then click next. Okay, then we get this kind of confirmation, and it's telling us how long it's going to take. So it's estimating about 2.5 hours, almost a day. So right now it's Monday, 1:20 p.m. I'll keep a look on this and we'll see how long it actually takes. And let's click done. It's giving you another quick summary here, and there's going to be some quick interruption of the service on your source NAS. Continue. Then one more time, the password for this device. Submit. All right, so we basically got started, and I'll keep an eye on this, and then we'll get back for the next steps. All right, so I'm back here the next day. And this pop-up comes up, restart the device, the destination NAS. It says you're almost done. We need to restart. Services will pause temporarily. It'll be a quick minute here, a couple minutes, and data will no longer be migrated from our source NAS after this restart. And this destination NAS will become our source NAS, right? And it's going to say we're going to follow some on-screen instructions like updating the IP address, for example. Okay, let's go ahead and click restart now. Okay, it's going to take about 11 minutes and we'll be right back. And we can see that it took 1 day, 3 hours, 43 minutes for the migration to complete, right? For us to get to this step. And I believe it was estimating 22 hours. Okay, so it took about 5-ish, something like that, 5 hours longer than it was actually predicting, but basically 24 hours 1 day. And this was, I want to say it was like 4.5 terabytes of data. A couple minutes later now, the reboot has already happened. And it's just updating some packages. Now it's telling me which packages it's updating or applications. And it looks like it's on the last one here. Now we're at the DSM or the NAS login page. We're still on the IP address of the destination NAS, and now it looks exactly like the source NAS was looking like. It had this custom image, some text and title and description. So it looks like everything migrated. So let's log in and see what we got. Okay, so first thing, two-factor, we can skip that, do that later. Okay, and then the Migration Assistant pops up here on our, again, Destination NAS. It's telling us, so even here you see the server name is Destination NAS in this widget. And so we had actually 5.2 terabytes on here. Okay, cool. So manual configuration, what we need to do. So disable the network interface or any connections to the source device, right? Meaning the device where we migrated from. It could be as easy as unplugging the NAS from your network, right? Not from the power, but from the network. Or also, if you have a static IP address set on there, you'll want to go to, here, let me just show you, control panel, network, go to network interface, and you see if it says DHCP, so on your source NAS, then you're good to go. You can just unplug it from your network. And then we'll want to take the IP address from our source NAS and set it to this destination NAS, our new NAS here. Now you could go in here if you had a static IP, or you go edit, you use a manual configuration and you type that in here, the IP address. However, I always recommend keeping things on DHCP and just reserving this address on your network router. I'll show you how to do that on a unified gateway, but it'll be very similar to other routers. I'm here right now on the source NAS, and I'm just making note of its IP address. Okay, so this 23.2.220. So now it's reserved as a fixed DHCP address, but we're going to change it. So unreserve it for this device and change it to our destination NAS. Okay, so I'm in my router here, and the IP address, right? So the 2.220 is the source NAS, and here's our new NAS. So on the source NAS, I'll go here to settings. Okay, so it doesn't have a fixed IP address. That's good. So what I am going to do is unplug this device so that this 220, this IP address is available to use for the new NAS. Now for the destination NAS, kind of same thing. We go to settings, checkmark fixed IP. And if you recall, ours was 2.220 and apply the changes. Now depending on your settings in your router or gateway, this might take, kind of default settings, it might take up to a day for it to update to the new IP address. So what you can do on your destination NAS, your new NAS, which it just disappeared, you would unplug the network and just plug it back in. And about a minute later, you should see your device back online, right? And it shows me here that it's at that new IP address. So I'm gonna go ahead and navigate to that new IP address. And I've logged back in, and we want to open up our menu. Then open Migration Assistant. Then to get that window back up, what we had to do, just click here under Manual Configuration, Details. So block connection, we already did that, and we even updated our IP address, right? The next step, repair packages. So let's go to Package Center like it says. We need to agree again, click OK. And here under Installed, so this is the things you want to update and also repair. So let's first update this. Then for whatever you have, just click repair. Okay, and that's all. Close that. Let's go to the next step. And then we have configure package settings. So this is going to depend a lot on the kind of packages or applications you have running, right? Like active backup for business. It's letting me know that these I probably want to reconfigure. Now, some of this are already fixed by just updating the IP address. So things like active backup for business from the client side, from the computers, those will still work because they just point to this IP address, the same one. But some settings in there will want to update. The main thing is basically you'll want to follow this link, and it's going to detail out exactly all the things to check. I'll just give you some examples because there's no way we can go through all of this right now. So obviously some things here, right? Reconfigure non-migratable things, licenses 1.1. One thing, so 1.2 will for sure want to do this. Sign into our Synology account. So let's go ahead and do that. So control panel, like it says, info center, or you can also go to Synology accounts, and let's make sure we sign in. We're signed in. We also want to go to things like notifications here and make sure we still have this turned on. Okay, so for our Synology accounts, if you most likely had this turned on, to keep receiving notifications via email, and click apply. So that's kind of what 1.3 here tells you. Also push service if you had that. And number 2, domain clients. So this is, right, if you're like part of a domain controller from a server, then you would need to reconfigure that. Then also all these, I guess, network settings, DHCP server. So by default, that should have been turned off, right? Your router, your gateway is your DHCP server, same thing for firewall. So those are kind of your network settings. There are some things, so let's go to our network. So I did show you already a network interface. That's where you can set a static IP if you needed to do that, and also configure secondary LAN or even third, fourth if you have that. So my second one's not plugged in. That's why this is the funky IP address. Also, if you had any static routes, anything like that, you would need to reconfigure it. The server name, right? So at this point, we can probably rename this to whatever it was before. So like, right, your business name, something like that, NAS1. We'll actually be setting up a secondary NAS for this as a backup and as a like high availability failover. So this is why I usually call them NAS1, NAS2, that kind of way. So anyways, you can rename it here and any DNS settings you might have had. And another important thing here is two-factor authentication. So for the admin accounts that you are using to do this migration, this has been disabled. So you want to turn it back on. And if you didn't have it turned on before, you should just enable it. So let's go back here and you can go to your account here, personal, go to security. So right now you see we have single-factor authentication, but we want two-factor. And typically you want to do OTP. So something like we're using 1Password, whatever, using Apple, Google Chrome, something like that, it can do OTP. Synology also has its own app you can use for that if you want to. Just click next. So it's telling you can get their app, for example, but you can use any other one. Click next. So scan this in, add this to your password manager. You want to have a backup email address here and just verify it, then click next. And done. Click apply, close it. So we'll go back to the article right now. By the way, this last one, all this learn more, it takes you all to the same place. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back in here. And number 3 here, it says to configure package or your application settings on a Destination NAS. We already did repair and update packages. We want to configure some packages too, like active backup for business. Again, I won't show you all of them, but you should read through this. This is just ones that we use and that stands out. Active backup for business, snapshot replication. Okay, so let's go ahead and go in here. Kind of basically the ones it tells you here. So let's go active backup for business. So it looks like it downloaded some new version of this. So we want to just activate it. Cool, and it basically logged us into our accounts. So that's all good to go. And then this was showing me 0 right here, but you just have to kind of click through these menus, refresh, maybe close the app, open it, and you should see it back to whatever you had here. So this server here just is backing up 6 computers. Let's go back to the article. So we definitely need to readjust here our snapshot replications. So let's go to snapshot replication. Okay, this is okay for now. Okay, one thing here, so some of these are not scheduled, but let's say you have them scheduled already. If they were not scheduled, by the way, you want to go in here and just modify that. And into settings, what they will not have it turned on by default from the migration is immutable snapshots. So if you had that turned on before, you want to re-enable it here. I'll just skip it for now. Okay, and then it says we want to check cloud sync, hyper backup. Okay, so basically all those backup tasks, you do want to check that. And eventually at the end here, we will reconnect our old source NAS and be sure to delete all those kind of packages that are doing backups and cloud sync, right? So it should all be working fine, but just go through here and check it. So cloud sync. So I see that these are all synced up. So that's cloud sync is good. Again, I will have to go back to disable this on the source NAS, our old one. Hyper backup. Now I'm just checking that everything's all good. So it's connected. This one's backing up to Synology C2 and then a local hard drive. It just gave me a red sign because it skipped the backup. That's okay. And then VPN server. So that should be fine if you're running one because we already updated the IP address. Now, if something doesn't work there, you might have to re-download that configuration file. We're using OpenVPN here. But otherwise, it should be fine. So if we go to general settings, for example, right, there's a new IP address or the same IP address and it's still all good to go. And active insights. So this is, if you're using this is tied to your Synology account. And as we can see, it is disabled. So we want to re-enable it. Click apply. Make sure you do go to the active Insight web portal to remove your old NAS from there because you only get 3 free licenses. So it should bring you here right away to subscription and just find your old one and on register. And just click OK. Okay, so we're good. We can close that. And number 4 here, one of the last things, more network things that we did, right? Like change the IP address, right? So we want everything pointing like with this, so to the IP address to be designated for this new Destination NAS. And the server name, so the name of our NAS also we already changed. So let's just double check all of this. So settings, network, right? This was our server name. So I would update this to whatever your last one was. And we can also update quick connect settings. So we don't have that enabled here because there's better ways to access your NAS more securely. But if you did have that, go to control panel, external access, and right here, quick connect, you want to enable and reconfigure that if you need to. And we do need to update our DDNS, so it will be disabled by default. So if we go to DDNS, so you'll see it was enabled before, but it's disabled. So let's just click edit, and you want to check mark enable DNS. Let's click test connection. You'll notice that it'll probably fail, so you just want to click OK, and it's going to ask you if you want to transfer that host name to this new NAS, and just click yes. And there we are. So normal, that means we're connected, it's all updated. Great. And last step, number 5, shut down the source NAS. So we already disconnected it, it's still on running. So I just made it easier by disconnecting the network, but we're going to reattach it, and you should get a new IP address. It won't get the same one that we're now using, the same one it was using before. It'll get a new one. So you can go either to your router to find what that new IP address is and log in, or go again, find the Synology.com and locate your NAS, okay, and then log into your original source NAS. And we'll want to disable some of those like hyper backup, any backup kind of task, but I'll show you that right now. All right, so I am in the original source NAS here, and I'm gonna start pausing things right away. So let's pause like the cloud sync. Okay, and now we can, you can really just delete the whole application if you want to, or just start unlinking some of these tasks that you have. So if you did want to delete it, just go to Package Center, Installed. So here we have Cloud Sync. You can just stop it. That's even fine. It's not going to restart by itself, or uninstall as well. Okay, then I'll go back. Same thing for other services, so either uninstall it or open them. Like the active backup for Microsoft 365, for example, for Google Workspace. I'll probably open it and just make sure to unlink it, right? This is the one that backs up like your OneDrive mail and all that good stuff. So I'll go in here more and delete the task. Just to be sure, because I don't know what's happening on the Microsoft side of things here, or Google Workspace, so I'll just be sure to stop that task here. And same thing for like hyper backup if you're backing up to Synology. And hyper backup, for example, like the Synology C2, I'll go here and delete the task. Now this won't delete the data, and everything's still in Synology's cloud, so don't worry about that. You can also delete this other task. Delete. Some of those main like backup tasks already paused or even uninstalled. You're okay with having this plugged in. It might just confuse users or something like that, so I'll probably unplug it. I'll first make sure you set up, your other backup tasks are all working on your new NAS. And then when they are, when you verify it's all good, then eventually you'll come in here on your original source NAS, right, the one you're replacing, to Control Panel, Update and Restore, and do a system reset. So you'll go System Reset, erase all data. You'll say, I understand. It's going to erase everything on this hard drive. And after 5 seconds, you'll just click that, and then that's it. It'll take a couple of minutes. It'll erase everything. Nothing else will be there. Okay, so that's what I would do at the end. But again, make sure that your new NAS is completely all working. Everything's backing up. I would even just run a backup task outside of your scheduled time. So not for Cloud Sync here, but let's say you are using Hyper Backup. Right, I would go ahead and back up to your local hard drive. If you're using Synology, click Backup Now, and make sure it all syncs up and it's all backing up before you delete your initial one. And that's it. We got it migrated, even double checked, right? Hyper Backup, for example, here, got backed up today. All good, no problems. That means everything linked back together. So that's pretty good. You can tell that the longest part of this is just the back end of this, of just checking all the packages, making sure everything lines up there. I mean, the longest thing is actually migrating, but you don't have to do anything there. You just wait, come back when it's done, and finish it up. So hopefully this was helpful to you. And if so, like, subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's something I missed, something you think that's important that I should have checked, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions, you need help with this, reach out below. Thanks for watching. Take care.